Last week, WWE released over 30 superstars from across the main roster in NXT. It was a shock for many of us, as WWE had been seemingly phasing out releases of the old days and had gone to just letting contracts expire. This reminds us of the days of pre-WWE 2K22, when there were a bunch of releases leading up to the game that you just didn't know who would even make the cut into the game's roster. So with a similar occurrence happening pre-2K24, let's look at how these releases may change the plans for WWE 2K24. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're the first to know when we upload a video. Now, for many of the names on the list, they will not really have an effect on the game due to them likely not even making the cut for the roster in the first place, as many had not been seen on TV in a while and in some cases hadn't been on WWE TV in over a year. But for some, it could be very interesting. As we found out with 2K22, there's a point of no return within the game and the roster cuts, with quite a few AEW wrestlers managing to make the cut just because they were cut so close to the game's release. And with the game getting closer and closer to a release, it could actually be impossible for some of the wrestlers who just got released for them to be cut from the game entirely. It's dependent on how much they are featured in the game. For those who are unaware, scripts for modes such as My Rise will be completely months ago by now, and the voiceover work from WWE Superstars has already been wrapped up by now. Some of these stories can be super important to the mode, so there may be a case where some wrestlers will still make the cut for the game. In WWE 2K22, AEW stars such as Keith Lee and Buddy Matthews both had important roles in the game stories, so cutting them out was just not an option, and that's why 2K had them appearing in the game whilst being AEW wrestlers.
Before I get to my next match against Keith Lee, I have a few things I'd like to discuss. Hang on a second. Just let me gather my thoughts real quick.
Gather your thoughts or stall before you have to face a rested and motivated Keith Lee.
Okay, where was I? Like any top superstar would, I did my homework on Keith Lee in preparation for tonight's match, and I learned some very interesting things. See, this man is full of hashtags and motivational catchphrases, but it's all a bunch of lies. He's never lived up to a single one of them. Like, did you know that Keith Lee stole his parents' car when he was first leaving home to become a wrestler? I guess Grand Theft Auto is the true definition of limitless. Speaking of Keith's parents, turns out they didn't even want him to get into wrestling. They wanted him to continue playing football, but instead he quit, turning his back on his team and a free education that millions would die for. I doubt any of his coaches or teammates felt like basking in his glory after that. But after reading more and more about Keith Lee's backstory, one thing became clear. This is a pattern. He's always taken the easy way out, finding people who buy into his phony persona and enable him to receive countless opportunities after failing over and over again. Like, for instance, how he failed to make the cut at the Performance Center 3 times before he was bailed out by William Regal, who, to this day, continues to give him chance after chance when all he does is squander them. But this pattern really first started with Keith Lee's grandmother, who introduced him to wrestling as a young boy in Texas. While I can't go back and fix the giant mistake she made, I can put an end to it now. So Keith Lee, come on out here so I can expose you for what you really are. A fake, a liar, a failure, and soon to be former WWE superstar.
Keith Lee sends him flying to the floor. Talk about a man's family and grandmother, and this is what you get.
Keith Lee's on a rampage. He snapped. Someone needs to stop him.
If anyone can talk some sense into Keith Lee, it's NXT General Manager William Regal.
And finally, it looks like cooler heads are prevailing.
He may have taken a beating, but I think this is what he wanted. He got inside Keith Lee's head, and now he has an important mental edge going into whatever their next encounter is.
Keith Lee is as tough mentally as he is physically, I'm not sure that strategy is going to work.
Did you not just see what happened? I think it's already proven extremely effective.
As Seth Rollins' followers prepare for this 3-on-1 match against their former ally, you have to imagine their leader, the Monday Night Messiah, will be watching closely.
With the odds heavily in their favor, Seth won't be satisfied with anything other than a convincing win.
I think that's exactly what we're going to see here tonight.
From behind with that shovel.
He's not waiting for the match to start.
It's no longer 3-on-1. That shovel's an equalizer.
He's taken out weeks of built-up frustration after being held back by Seth and his group.
He said he was going to bury Seth's followers, but I didn't know he meant it literally.
I think Mustafa Ali and Austin Theory could have serious injuries.
It doesn't appear that the scheduled match will take place. Seth's crew is decimated.
Maybe, but it looks like Murphy still wants to fight.
Poor decision on his part. This guy's out for vengeance.
This could happen again with WWE 2K24, especially with some of the bigger names that were released. There's definitely a chance of there being some kind of story that features someone like Matt Riddle in there. If he had played WWE 2K23's My Rise mode, then you would know that he had featured in a career mode with him having his own storyline to play through in the game.
A trade? I haven't been here very long, but I'm pretty sure that's not how it works.
Oh, come on, bro. You gotta learn to think outside the box. Like so far out that the box never even existed.
Kind of like your IC title shot. See you around.
So if that was the case again in 2K24, then we could absolutely see Matt Riddle making the cut into the game still, so there won't be any issues with the already written My Rise mode for 2K24. Cutting someone like Riddle will not be as easy as some say, like Shanky for example, who's not been on a WWE TV match for well over a year, and was very unlikely going to be featured within the story of 2K24's My Rise mode. This is why we could see some recent releases not making the final WWE 2K24 roster and others making it.
Stop dancing, you look foolish. I can't help it, my hips are on fire. Woohoo!
Another factor that could be an issue for WWE 2K24's roster is the AEW factor within the recent WWE releases. WWE has made it very clear in the past that they do not want people who are on AEW TV in 2K games. This is shown within WWE 2K22 as some of the April-July 2021 releases like Braun Strowman still managed to make it in the game, though people like Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson who jumped to AEW were cut from the game completely despite leaving the WWE way after those who still made the cut into 2K22. If there was a situation by December 2023 when the release's 90-day windows are up and the people are showing up on AEW TV, it could become an issue within WWE for having those newly signed AEW stars within the 2K24 roster. There could be some educated guesses made by WWE and 2K as to who might sign with AEW and who might not sign, with those unlikely to sign to AEW being kept within the roster for 2K24 and those who are likely to join being cut from the roster. There's also the fan disappointment perspective to look at too. Some of those names that got released are also names that many fans would love to still have in the game. Names such as Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin, who both got released recently, have been in so many WWE games that just not having them in there anymore would be something that could easily upset fans of the 2K series. And with 2K being on a roll recently with their 2K releases, they'd want to keep fans as happy as possible. So if it's possible and WWE allow it, then 2K would definitely try to keep them on the roster for 2K24. There's also a chance of some of the released superstars making 2K appearances if certain deals can be made. For example, in 2K23, which was released in March of 2023, Tyler Breeze is a playable character in the game despite being released from the WWE all the way back in June of 2021. This was done due to a different non-in-ring talent being signed with the WWE, so Breeze could remain working on the WWE affiliated YouTube channel Up Up Down Down, and the same deal allowed him to still appear in WWE 2K games without any issues. Could a similar deal be struck with some of the released talent to allow them to be in the game? Only time will tell. Now we feel that although some big names did get released, overall there shouldn't be too much of an effect on WWE 2K24. It's doubtful at all there would be any kind of delays to remove certain characters from the game, and as for who will make the cut, well, that's just something we're going to have to wait and see. There's a chance that all of the released talent are in the game, there's a chance that only some are in the game, and there's a chance that none of the released talent are in the game. It would just all be speculation to say that we know what will happen. The only thing we do know from the past 2K games is that WWE really did not want AEW talent on the roster. That might be the only lead we have on any cuts being made to the 2K24 roster. Do you think any will be included? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling video game content.